Welcome to the International Trade Minute, quick-fire trade news, where time is trade. We are your go-to podcast for rapid and concise updates on trade and law, designed specifically for busy trade professionals. Sponsored by Rydell Law Firm and prepared by seasoned trade attorneys, our twice-weekly podcast packages your essential trade updates, all in the time it takes to enjoy your coffee break. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, and join the conversation with a network of like-minded professionals on LinkedIn, where time is trade, make every minute count.
First up, we're slicing into a topic that's crucial for consumers and producers alike, the labeling of our food. The Food Safety and Inspection Service, or FSIS, part of the USDA, has just rolled out new regulations concerning the voluntary Product of USA or Made in USA labels on meat, poultry, and egg products. This change, set to be fully implemented by January 1st, 2026, aims to provide clearer guidelines on what these patriotic labels mean and ensure they accurately represent the product's origins. So, what's changing? Under the new rule, the use of Product of USA or Made in USA claims will continue to be voluntary. However, there's a significant update on compliance. Establishments choosing to sport these claims on their products will need to maintain documentation to support their U.S. origin assertions. This move aims to bolster consumer trust in these labels, ensuring that when a product claims to be made in the USA, it truly reflects the journey of its ingredients from farm to table. Digging a bit deeper, the final rule outlines specific criteria for these claims. For single-ingredient products, like a steak or chicken breast, the label means the animal was born, raised, slaughtered, and processed all within the United States. For multi-ingredient products, such as a meatloaf or a quiche, all regulated components and the majority of other ingredients must originate from the U.S., with only spices and flavorings as exceptions. This rule doesn't just stop at the packaging you see on your local grocery shelf. It's strictly for products sold within the domestic market. For foods exported outside the U.S., FSIS will ensure labeling meets the destination country's requirements, maintaining international trade compliance. In addition to the rule itself, USDA has also updated its labeling guidance, offering examples of claims and the types of documentation that establishments should keep to back up their Made in the USA labels. This guidance is a beacon for producers navigating the nuances of these regulations, helping them align their products with consumer expectations and legal standards. Why does this matter to you, the consumer, or you, the producer? It's all about transparency and trust. In an age where consumers are increasingly interested in the origins of their food, these labels serve as a quick reference to make informed choices that align with their preferences and values. For producers, it's an opportunity to clearly showcase the American heritage of their products, appealing to patriotic shoppers and those concerned with local sourcing and sustainability. As we inch closer to the 2026 full compliance date, it will be fascinating to see how these changes impact the landscape of American food production and marketing. Will these labels become a stamp of pride, a standard of quality, or perhaps both? Only time will tell. On our next story, we're diving into the heart of corporate accountability and national security with a recent announcement from the Department of Justice, or DOJ. The DOJ has reported a notable increase in voluntary self-disclosures from companies, including significant violations related to export controls and sanctions. This uptick comes amidst a concerted effort by the agency to amplify its enforcement resources and initiate new policies aimed at incentivizing responsible corporate behavior. Matthew Olson, head of the DOJ's National Security Division, spotlighted this trend with the revelation that two major multinational companies have come forward with disclosures of significant violations. This proactive approach by the companies not only underscores the critical importance of enabling law enforcement action, but also highlights the broader implications for national security. The surge in disclosures is not accidental, but the direct result of recent updates to voluntary disclosure policies by both the DOJ and the Commerce Department's Bureau of Industry and Security. These updates aim to foster a culture of corporate responsibility by encouraging companies to self-report serious violations, a move that Olson describes as paying off. Marshall Miller, DOJ's Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General, emphasized the significance of these self-disclosures, noting the substantial number of cases in the pipeline. This indicates a move towards greater transparency and predictability in handling these disclosures, with outcomes that will set clear precedents for corporate conduct. Furthermore, the DOJ is not merely passive in this process. Nicole Argentieri, Acting Assistant Attorney General of the DOJ's Criminal Division, shared insights into proactive investigations spurred by competitors' voluntary disclosures, demonstrating the DOJ's creative use of resources to initiate cases independently. In tandem with these policy updates, the DOJ has significantly bolstered its prosecutorial team, more than doubling the number of attorneys focusing on export control, sanctions, and foreign agent laws. This expansion reflects the critical role of business decisions in safeguarding national security and the DOJ's commitment to ensuring companies are incentivized to make choices that protect American interests. Adding another layer to this enforcement strategy, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco announced a new whistleblower reward program. This program promises a share of forfeiture proceeds to whistleblowers who provide pivotal information on corporate or financial misconduct after the victims have been compensated. This initiative aims to bridge gaps in existing whistleblower programs with a special focus on criminal corruption and financial-related violations, including breaches of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. As the DOJ gears up to launch a pilot program for these whistleblower incentives, the message to the corporate world is clear. Transparency, accountability, and cooperation with law enforcement are paramount. The DOJ's multifaceted approach to enhancing enforcement and incentivizing disclosures represents a significant shift towards more rigorous oversight of corporate conduct, with implications that extend far beyond individual companies to the broader landscape of international trade and national security. Up next, we're exploring a cautionary tale from the banking sector that underscores the intricate web of global finance and the paramount importance of compliance with international sanctions. EFG International AG, a Swiss private banking group with a global reach, has agreed to pay approximately $3.7 million to settle allegations of violating U.S. sanctions, including those related to Russia and Cuba. EFG's web of subsidiaries across several countries found themselves in hot water after engaging in transactions that ultimately serviced clients sanctioned by the Office of Foreign Assets Control, or OFAC. The core of the issue? Securities transactions were processed in the name of EFG, masking the involvement of clients who were under U.S. sanctions, thereby evading the vigilant eyes of American market participants. Between January 2014 and July 2018, EFG's activities spanned over 700 transactions worth nearly $30 million, benefiting clients in Cuba or those with Cuban nationals as beneficial owners. This included dealings with Cuban-owned companies and individuals residing in Cuba, a direct violation of the Cuban Assets Control Regulations. Moreover, EFG's Singapore branch opened an investment account for a Chinese national later designated as a specially designated narcotics trafficking kingpin. Although the account was restricted post-sanction, it took over 4 years for the necessary notifications to be made to U.S. custodians, resulting in 141 transactions worth over $468,000 being processed unlawfully. Adding to the list of infractions, EFG also mishandled the account of a client designated under Executive Order 14024 involving Russia. Due to an oversight, dividend transactions worth about $1,200 were processed through U.S. firms, despite sanctions. FSIS could have levied a maximum civil penalty nearing $276 million, but opted for a significantly lesser amount, considering the non-egregious nature of the case and EFG's voluntary disclosure of the violations. The agency has decided to suspend $1 million of the $3,140,442 fine, contingent on EFG fulfilling certain compliance commitments. EFG has since taken steps to shore up its compliance procedures, introducing measures such as new internal restrictions on sanctioned client accounts, enhanced due diligence for high-risk customers, and annual sanctions risk assessments. These efforts reflect a concerted push to realign EFG's operations with the rigorous demands of international sanctions compliance. This case serves as a stark reminder of the sanctions risks that financial institutions face, especially those with a diverse global clientele. It highlights the necessity for foreign securities firms to diligently screen customers against sanctions lists and impose stringent controls to prevent sanctioned individuals from benefiting from their services. An EFG spokesperson has noted that the settlement, net of the suspended portion, has been fully accounted for and emphasizes OFAC's recognition of EFG's remedial actions and the non-egregious, self-disclosed nature of the conduct. As we watch how this unfolds, the message is clear. The path of international finance is fraught with regulatory landmines, and only through vigilant compliance can institutions navigate these turbulent waters safely. We continue on our next news. We're navigating the complex and fast-evolving world of semiconductor technology and export controls. With the ever-tightening grip of international sanctions and export controls, governments are exploring new ways to ensure compliance, and it appears that technology might offer a solution. Chris Miller, a noted expert in semiconductor technology policy, shed light on potential regulatory innovations that could significantly impact how companies monitor sensitive shipments, particularly those involving chip manufacturing equipment. During a recent event hosted by SIARI, Miller proposed that the U.S. and other governments might soon require companies to employ location tracking technologies, similar to GPS, for complex semiconductor tools. This move aims to enhance due diligence and bolster export control enforcement by providing real-time visibility into the whereabouts of sensitive equipment. Why is this important? Sophisticated chip manufacturing tools, though challenging to smuggle, can change hands multiple times, masking the true end user, potentially enabling sanctioned entities, such as those in Russia, to acquire them. By mandating location tracking, regulators hope to peel away the layers of transactions and reveal the final destination of these critical technologies. Miller highlighted the difficulties regulators face in enforcing export licensing requirements, especially when equipment passes through multiple layers of distribution. The proposed GPS tracking could offer a clearer picture, alerting authorities if equipment moves towards restricted areas or is being transferred among facilities in a manner that raises red flags. Furthermore, Miller suggests that the semiconductor industry could benefit from a purchase monitoring system, akin to the transaction monitoring systems used by banks to detect financial crimes. This system would offer another layer of oversight, ensuring compliance with export controls right from the initial sale through subsequent transactions. But it's not just about tracking location. The call for on-chip governance mechanisms, physical devices embedded in semiconductors that restrict usage to scenarios compliant with export controls, represents another innovative approach to tightening enforcement. These measures indicate a growing recognition that traditional methods of export control might no longer suffice in the face of technological advancements and complex global supply chains. Miller anticipates that the U.S. might expand its list of controlled chip manufacturing equipment, driven by the realization that existing restrictions haven't fully curtailed the technological progress of Chinese firms. This potential expansion underscores the ongoing challenge of defining and controlling the production of advanced semiconductors within China. As the semiconductor industry grapples with these new compliance demands, Miller notes that while larger companies may already have robust compliance programs, smaller firms, especially those not previously viewed as dealing in dual-use goods, are still developing the necessary procedures. The increasing regulations require a higher level of due diligence and a closer collaboration with regulators to navigate the shifting landscape effectively. This episode highlights the critical intersection of technology, policy, and international trade. As governments look to new tools to ensure compliance with export controls, companies in the semiconductor and broader tech industry must adapt, enhancing their monitoring and compliance practices to meet these evolving requirements. On to our last news, story zeroes in on a landmark case in the world of international trade and customs law, involving one of the auto industry's giants, Ford Motor Company. Ford has agreed to a staggering $365 million settlement to resolve allegations that it knowingly undervalued hundreds of thousands of cargo vans to skirt U.S. customs duties. This case underscores the intricate dance between corporate strategy and legal compliance in the face of international tariffs. The crux of the dispute centered around Ford's Transit Connect vehicles. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit found that Ford's strategy of classifying these vehicles as passenger vans, dutiable at a lower rate of 2.5% instead of cargo vans, which carry a hefty 25% duty, was not above board. The automaker's approach involved installing temporary rear seats in these vans, which were removed after clearing customs, a practice the Federal Circuit described as an artifice. After years of legal wrangling, including an appeal to the Supreme Court which declined the case, Ford has opted to settle. The $365 million payment is split between restitution for lost duties amounting to over $183 million and penalties surpassing $181 million. Additionally, Ford has agreed to seek classification rulings from Customs and Border Protection, CBP, for certain vehicles it plans to import over the next 5 years, marking a significant shift in how the company will approach vehicle classification and customs duties. John Peterson, a customs attorney, called the settlement rather gentlemanly, highlighting the civil nature of the resolution, despite the large sums involved. Notably, the penalty portion of the settlement is less than the duty restitution, fitting within a typical range for cases grounded in simple negligence. This settlement not only closes a decade-old dispute, but also sets a precedent for how multinational corporations manage their importation strategies. The requirement for Ford to seek CBP classification rulings on new or redesigned vehicles introduces a new level of oversight and transparency in the process, potentially influencing how other companies approach tariff engineering. Ford's statement emphasizes its disagreement with many characterizations by the DOJ, but acknowledges the settlement as a means to move beyond this protracted dispute. Meanwhile, the U.S. government's allegations painted a picture of deliberate misclassification and underpayment of duties, with CBP and the DOJ underscoring their commitment to enforcing customs laws fairly and rigorously. This case is a stark reminder of the balance companies must strike between innovative business strategies and compliance with international trade laws. It also highlights the government's readiness to hold even the largest companies accountable, ensuring a level playing field in international commerce. As we watch the ripple effects of this settlement unfold, one thing is clear: transparency and compliance are non-negotiable in the complex world of international trade. This episode serves as a crucial lesson for all importers on the importance of truthfully declaring their products and fulfilling their duty obligations.
Thank you for joining us on International Trade Minute, your rapid source of trade updates for busy trade professionals, and we hope to have you back for our next episode. Don't forget to subscribe.